All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Eagles Power Hour, your Eastern Washington affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Patrick Frakes. We are brought to you by Walk On Apparel. And hey, it's been a minute. I have been MIA for about a week. I did a recap of the Montana State game, and you guys have not heard from me since. I apologize. Life gets busy as a biology major. That's all I'm going to say. Been a little busy, been dealing with a lot of homework and a lot of exams all at the same time. We're finally kind of through that patch of kind of midterms and a bunch of bigger projects all being due and the end of my coaching season and stuff. So finally got a little bit more extra time. Thankfully, we have some stuff to fill that time now. We got football, we got men's basketball, we got women's basketball, we got Eastern volleyball. I'm not going to cover volleyball in this episode at all. Going to talk about the basketball teams a little bit after we recap this awesome Northern Colorado win for the football team. Hey, I'm always going to be more of a football centric podcast generally. I know I did a lot of basketball coverage last year. It's not going to be as in depth this year. I just don't have the time now. Being a sophomore versus being a junior in college, it's a little bit different of a time commitment, as well as, hey, like I have to go do other things in life as well besides just talk about football and basketball. So I'm probably going to do around a weekly update for both the men's and women's basketball team. Probably going to go more in depth on the men's side of things just because I got limited time. I can't be watching 4 or 5 games a week for, both teams. So, 4 or 5 games a week and recapping every game individually and stuff. I'm going to try to just do kind of a general, more storylines, not necessarily going super in depth on game by game. Like I previewed almost every game last year. Maybe we'll preview some of the bigger ones, but for the most part, we're going to kind of keep it a little bit lower key on the basketball coverage just because, hey, time commitment, 1, 2. I don't know if we have like a number one in the Big Sky team on the men's side of things this year like we did last year. I don't think we're going to have, 2 Big Sky champions again this year. Just being realistic. Hey, it might happen. The men's team has been frisky, but we'll talk about that more here after the Northern Colorado recap. So, Northern Colorado. Hey, Eastern got a nice win at Northern Colorado down in Greeley, a place that is tough to play for most Big Sky teams for whatever reason. It's just Eastern has historically not played great in Greeley. And even like good Big Sky team like Idaho last year was a quarterfinal team, and they needed a late pick 6 to pull away from Northern Colorado. Hey, Eastern dominated this game. It was an 11 a.m. start. There was only 1,000 people at the game, or 1,500 people at the game. Eastern wins 43-15. Really was domination from whistle to whistle. Not much like there's not a ton of schematic things to break down. It really was, hey, Eastern's relatively a talented, good team. Northern Colorado has not been, and Eastern, not good necessarily nationally, but like in terms of talent, in terms of playing a bottom tier Big Sky, really a bottom tier FCS team in Northern Colorado. Eastern's the better team. They should win this game by 30. They won it by 28. So, there's some things still to be desired defensively. Gave up a few big plays, but overall, you can't really be mad with a 43-15 win. Setting a new record in terms of rushing attempts, kind of nuts. Only a few yards shy of the record for rushing yards in a game. Insane. And so we're going to keep this recap pretty quick. Again, I apologize, guys. I didn't get a preview out for the Northern Colorado game, but there really wasn't much to preview. Sorry, guys. I don't watch a lot of Northern Colorado football. They're a bad team in the Big Sky. I have limited time, and I cover the whole Big Sky on the Big Sky Podcast Network Power Ranking Show, and just kind of generally it's my thing. So I kind of focus a lot more time on the competitive games and the games with like the upper level teams. And so I'd watch about a quarter of the last like 3 games from Northern Colorado and then call it good. So I'm not an expert on Northern Colorado. Brian Marceau loves Northern Colorado. He watches them all the time. I'm not interested. So I just don't cover them as often. Don't know the team as well. Didn't have much time to do it. And so all those things combined turned into, hey, no episode came out. Apologize. Quick recap. Hey, Eastern dominated, right? Not a ton to really. I mean, Eastern came out of the gates hot, 22 points right away in the first quarter, and then after that, it was, just 7 points a quarter. which is, you would like to see Eastern step on the gas a little bit better in that second, third, and fourth quarter, but also like they were having like 9-minute drives in the second quarter, in the second half. It felt like, you look at it wasn't necessarily true. But you look at the box score, it wasn't necessarily that true, but like they had an 8.5-minute drive in the third quarter, two 5+ minute drives in the fourth quarter. The second quarter wasn't as good, but I mean, it's hard to be mad at that result. So I'm not going to be mad at that result, right? Um, there really wasn't a ton to be upset about at all. Generally, aside from the Kiko Vesperis pick, the offense was really humming on all cylinders. Kikoa, you could tell Kikoa still has some hitches in his giddy up. Something was a little bit off with him, in terms of like, yeah, he doesn't look quite the same as he did before Idaho to me, or like during the Idaho game before he got hurt. I feel like he's just been a little off. He looked a little off to me throwing the ball. Like he's underthrowing guys a little bit. Didn't matter versus Northern Colorado. He went 13 for 20, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns. He made some nice throws. I feel like he's a little just a tweak off, which everyone's hurt at this point in November. But you gotta hope he's got two more games to show out and get the ball to Chisholm. Only 2 more games of Efton Chisholm, guys, in an Eagle uniform. That sucks. But we do have some football news that I'll cover at the end of our recap, by the way, as well. Jared Taylor, 3 passes for 4 yards, or three completions on 4 attempts for 20 yards, and a touchdown. He had a pretty nice game on the ground. There was, what? 7 Eagles rushed the ball in this game for 362 rushing yards on 68 attempts. That's 5 yards a carry on 68 attempts. Man, that's pretty dang good. 2 touchdowns on the ground, along at 26. Pretty dang impressive. Like 326 yards, and there wasn't like a big 80-yard run to like make that look better than it was. Eastern just dominated up front. The running backs did their thing. Malik Dotson was finally back from injury in this game. 17 attempts for 130 yards. He is my offensive player of the game. Malik Dotson is back, and there's a reason that he gets more carries than Tuna now. Dotson, to me, looks like the best running back on the team. I think Dotson is easily the best running back on the team. When you get him and Jared Taylor on the field at the same time, it becomes a really effective power rushing attack. And I think we really missed that versus versus Montana State and versus Idaho with those guys out, with with Malik Dotson out. It felt like we didn't have the same power up front with Tuna. Jared Taylor is really your only like true power back. Tuna is good, but he isn't. I just think Malik Dotson's more effective and more consistent than Tuna, and it's kind of what we saw in this game. 130 yards gained for Malik Dotson, 125 net. Who cares? Jared Taylor, 92 yards gained. 2 touchdowns on the ground for Jared Taylor. That's 3 total touchdowns for Jared Taylor. He's got to be up there for a player of the game. 110 net yards or something like that. 3 touchdowns is pretty good. Tuna Altier, 14 rushes, 66 yards. Kentrell Williams Jr. had 7 rushes for 38 yards. I forgot about that. That's funny. Kiko Vesperis had 6 rushes for 27 yards. Talon Betts had 5 rushes for 8, or excuse me. Wait, what? What the heck? Oh, wow. I am on some 7 rushes for 38 yards for Kentrell Williams Jr. Kiko Vesperis, 6 yards, 27 gained. He lost 13 yards, so his net was 14 yards on the game. Talon Betts had 5 carries for 8 yards. Mike Wortham had 2 carries. He gained 1 yard. Not as impressive, but it's okay. Yeah, sorry about the brain fart in the middle of that. That was impressive. I totally forgot Kentrell Williams got 7 carries in this game, and I spaced out trying to figure out what I was looking at for a second there. But anyways, receiving, Chisholm, 10 receptions for 93 yards and 2 touchdowns. He just keeps doing what he's doing. Michael Wortham, 4 catches, 58 yards. I like seeing him more in the receiving game. I like to see him get the ball more still. Felt like he was more of a they wanted to get him involved more early, and after the first quarter, they kind of went away from it, which I get it. Wesley Garrett had one catch, 44-yard touchdown. Cole Pruitt, one catch for 4 yards, and that's it on the passing side of things. When was the last time Eastern had a run pass split that was 68 rushes to 16 passes or 16 receptions, I should say. That is nuts. 24 to 68 pass run split is nuts. For Northern Colorado, they had 250 or Peter Costelli had 258 yards through the air, and like almost half of that came on 2 drives, right? And then after that, it wasn't he didn't have much success. Eastern was able to kind of bend but don't break, which is kind of what they wanted to be this year, and then just hasn't happened. But they were able to. It was good to see them. It was good to see them look okay. Unfortunately, everyone looks okay against Northern Colorado's offense, who is awful. I believe no turnovers in this game for Northern Colorado. Am I forgetting something? Yeah, no turnover. Eastern lost the turnover battle in this game. Jeez. Eastern threw 1 pick in this game. Northern Colorado did not turn the ball over. But other than that, man, every other stat in the book was favoring Eastern Washington. Possession time 43 minutes to Northern Colorado 16 minutes. Some seconds in there make it even, but we're not going to cover that. 13 for 17 on third down for Eastern, 0 for 1 on third down for Northern Colorado. Wait, what? Is that right? No. 2 of 10 on third down for Northern Colorado. I was looking at the fourth down conversions for a second. I am rusty, guys. Sorry, I've been off for a week and I act like I haven't done anything. Not a ton more to cover in this game. I mean, the total offense, 538 yards of total offense, 323 yards of offense for Northern Colorado. Just, it was an ass kicking. And this is the type of output that, we know that this Eastern team can do stuff like this. And it's been disappointing because we know that they're capable of big wins like this, and they just have not been competing and making those, early in the season. It felt like, Southeastern Louisiana and Drake should have been games similar to this, and they weren't. And because they weren't, now we're in the point that we are in the season where, this team is, 3-7, probably should be 5-5-ish right now. You're 5-5. You got a chance to win 2 more games. All of a sudden, you're 7-5 on the bubble of the playoff, right? You just take care of business against some teams that you're better than, and this Eastern team's in a much better place. Which is that's just life when it comes to college football, and it's unfortunate, but that's how it happens sometimes, man. Sometimes stuff is tough. That's kind of all we got for football, guys. Not a ton. I mean, this game was just boring. It's boring. For blowouts are boring. They're fun, but they're boring to cover as a guy that podcasts because there's not a ton of storylines to hit on. Eastern dominated, but they dominated against a bad team. They've been able to run the ball all year, but hey, I'm very happy that Eastern's seniors got that win on the win column because 2-7 looks really bad. 3-7 still looks bad, but it's not quite as bad. 4-7 looks even a little bit less bad. 5-7, hey, you're just a little bit below average team, right? So here's the hoping Eastern could win out. But yeah, man, that's kind of all we got. Football news. I will hit on this. Now, this does not mean anything specifically. The one thing that it does mean, we'll cover. But Nolan Ulm came out and made an announcement on his social media the other day that he is, in fact, redshirting this year, which sounds funny. Hey, Patty, hasn't he been on campus since 2021? How does he still have a redshirt available? Well, Nolan has used his COVID redshirt year already, but he has not used his just regular old plain redshirt that most freshmen use right when they get on campus. Just a regular redshirt. He never used it. And with today's new NCAA rules, he's able to play in 4 games and still redshirt. Now, he announced that, hey, initially he got injured in the first game of the season. He had a pretty severe high ankle sprain. Got it taped up, went back in the Drake game, and he wasn't fully there, so he ended up sitting out most of that Drake game. He sat out for the C-Lock game. He sat out for another game, came back for the first game of conference, and he just didn't feel like himself. And he decided to make the decision to sit out, and that's why Nolan has been out. We were a little worried that he had like a long-term injury or something weird happen. Turns out, hey, he just had an ankle sprain. Ankle sprains suck. They take a while to get right. He had a red shirt available. The season wasn't going to where we thought it was going. And when you're looking at the future, the future isn't super steady right now. But, assuming that Coach Best and his staff is back, you look at the future, and hey, there's not very much experience returning on this Eagle receiving core in terms of production. You get Cole Pruitt and Noah Cronquist probably back, but and Miles Williams, who again also hasn't played much, but those other than that, there isn't much. There isn't much in terms of production coming back. Only a couple catches a game maybe for those two guys, the Cole Pruitt and the Noah Cronquist of the world, and then you got a bunch of freshmen, and so very talented freshmen. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of freshmen, and so. Turns out Nolan Olm is going to redshirt, and he will. The one thing that this does mean is Nolan Olm will not play again in another. He's suited up and played in 4 games. He will not play another game this year. He will not play another game in 2024. What this does mean, or what this doesn't mean, is he will for sure be back next year. My understanding is, hey, if Coach Best is back, Kiko Vesperis is back, he's probably going to be back. That's how I would view it personally. But hey, if Coach Best leaves or Coach Best is let go at the end of the year, contract is expiring. Things aren't necessarily looking like he's going to get a big extension right now with the trajectory of the program. That's just how, obviously, I'm just calling it as I see it. I think he's probably going to move on after this year. And when the head coach moves on, in today's day and age of college football, usually that means a lot of the team moves on as well. There's obviously a ton of factors that will go into, hey, is no one going to stay? Is no one going to go? I don't know. But what we do know right now is Nolan Olm is done for the year, and he has the potential to be back next year. He's going to play another year of college football. If that is with Eastern Washington University, we cannot be certain right now. So it would be great to have him back. It'd be great to have another leader in the building, especially if Coach Best is back. It would be really nice to have another senior in the building, or at least a senior in the building. I guess Noah Cronquist might be a senior, but like a senior that has been here, knows kind of the tradition, because he'd be the last guy that played on a playoff team, at least in my memory, or at least that got playing time on a playoff team. Like he got playing time on that the COVID year, the COVID year playoff team when they went to North Dakota State in the first round. Anyways, he's one of the last guys that was here during the days that Eastern was really good, and actually was a contributor on the years that Eastern was really good. And so it would be great to have him back to kind of set the foundation moving forward that we hope to see. But you're losing a lot of seniors this year. It'd be great to have another guy come back when we thought he was gone. But that's not certain. But I can't believe I talked about Northern Colorado and Eastern football for 20 minutes after how boring this week was. Not gonna lie, guys, I'm not mega excited about. I wasn't mega excited about Northern Colorado. I was excited to get a win, but not a ton of storylines to talk about if you're an Eastern fan in terms of for the program development and stuff. Not a lot. I mean, you can talk about Kentrell Williams Jr. getting a couple carries, but I'm not going to hit on it too much. It feels a little bit to me like, hey, it's getting a guy on the field when he's had some troubles. He's had some troubles in the secondary this year. And hey, get him. He's a physical guy. He's a relatively quick guy. Hey, maybe running back is a better position for him anyways. But I don't know necessarily that's a full-time move per se. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got for football, guys. And we're gonna roll this into basketball in just a minute. Before that, we have a word from our sponsor, Walk On Apparel. The Eagles Power Hour is sponsored by Walk On Apparel. Walk On Apparel focuses on capturing Eastern Washington's culture and traditions and apparel designs that are as different as they are affordable. Plus, 10% of the profit from every sale gets donated right back to the Eagle Athletic Fund. That's a win for you and your alma mater. EPH listeners get 10% off Eastern gear at checkout using code EPH10. That's EPH10. New designs drop throughout the season, so check out walkon-apparel.com or follow them on Twitter and Instagram to see what's dropping next. They just dropped some new Weber State gear. You got to think, hey, basketball season. Eastern's usually a pretty good basketball school. Hey, maybe they drop some Eastern Washington basketball stuff this December and January and end of November. So keep a lookout, guys. Walkon-apparel.com. Up the fans. Thank you to Walk On Apparel for sponsoring us at Eagles Power Hour. And now we are going to transition to, hey, men's basketball update. What's been going on there? Who are some of our key contributors and stuff? So, yeah, here is Future Patty coming to you with that. All right, 3 games into the season for Eagles men's basketball. The Eagle men's basketball team with Coach Dan Munson at the helm. They're 1-2 right now, and that is losses to Colorado, Big 12 school, and a SEC school in Missouri, both on the road, both competitive games. It felt like kind of throughout those games. I didn't get a chance to watch the Missouri game tip to tip, but I listened to most of it. I watched the first quarter, basically, the first half of the first half. And, this Eagle team is not anything close to what last year's was stylistically or just makeup wise. Hey, last year's squad was one of the tallest teams in the country, despite being a mid-major. There are a lot of big men that could stretch the floor and do a lot of good things defensively. Hey, if you want to remember what that Eagle team was like, just watch a Cougs game because literally half of Eastern's team, it feels like, was there. Pretty much half of Eastern's contributors from last year are starting at Wazoo, aside from Casey Jones. We won't get too into that. It was weird. I went to a game Monday night in Pullman to watch the Vandals play Washington State. It was kind of weird because I was cheering against those guys. Strange feeling, but that's college basketball in 2024. Hey, what is this? What is this Eagle men's basketball team right now? Well, I'll tell you right now. Hey, this Eagle men's basketball team is not going to be a dumpster fire. That's for sure. This team, they competed wire to wire with Colorado. Well, wire to wire is an exaggeration, but they led Colorado by like 12 points at halftime. They played some tough defense. Kind of just got out talented at the end of the day at that Colorado game. A couple guys got hot. Hey, stuff happens, but Colorado, I mean, I'm not going to say that they're a great team because I don't really know, but Colorado they looked like a relatively decent team, and Eastern, the second half, the threes and stuff weren't really going in, and they were just kind of able to outscore Eastern in the second half, held Eastern to 56 points at the end of the day. Then Eastern hosted Seattle U for their home opener in the Dan Munson era, and man, the offense was absolutely awesome. Eastern was able to put up 93 points. They beat Seattle U 93-86 in a game that Seattle U is favored by double figures, if I'm remembering right. Kind of put some of the mid-major basketball world on notice. Dan Munson is a dude. College basketball, it's crazy how teams cannot be. You lose your entire team and you're still okay. This isn't David Riley losing the whole team and all of a sudden being a Big Sky champion again, maybe we've seen in the past, but this is not a bottom tier Big Sky team in my opinion right now. I don't think that's where Eastern basketball is at. It's just a different makeup, a different style of team. Then the Eastern went to Missouri on Monday night, lost the game 77-84. Man, they battled. There's a few questionable calls in that game, got a little chippy, but again, Eastern really competed with a higher budget team, big schools, and hey, this Eastern program isn't gonna be atrocious. That's for sure. Now, who are kind of our main contributors this year, right? It's kind of weird. I only recognize like 2 or 3 of the guys that are on this team when you go to like Eagle Madness and you're like, oh, there's Sebastian Hartman. He played last year. There's Mason Williams. He played a little bit last year, but he has a haircut now, and he just looks like a different dude a little bit. And then Nick McLean was a guy that was on the roster last year but didn't play. And then you have Sebastian Hart, or excuse me, Vise Zanki is the other one that got a little bit of playing time last year, and he plays a good amount of the time. He's kind of the Eastern sixth man off the bench this year. But who are some of the main contributors of this Eastern team? Well, right now, the starting five has been Andrew Cook, Mason Williams, Nick McLean, Sebastian Hartman, and Emmett Marquardt. I think it's Marquardt or Marquette. Marquardt. I can't. I'm still picking up on the pronunciation. I've been at a lot of these games, so I haven't like heard the pronunciation other than the PA announcer at the basketball games kind of yelling it after they make shots. But leading scorer through 3 games right now is Andrew Cook, and actually Andrew Cook was the Big Sky Player of the Week this week. He had an awesome first 3 games. He's averaging 26 minutes per game. How many points is he averaging? I gotta get refamiliarized to the to the basketball score sheets. He's averaging 18.7 points per game right now. He's averaging 3 rebounds a game. He's shooting about 33% from 3, 9 for 11 from the free throw stripe. Shooting 67% on the season right now is Andrew Cook. Andrew Cook is a transfer from Carroll College. I believe he's a senior. I'll have to look really quick. I'm pretty sure he's a senior. It's hard to know, man. There's so many it's hard to know what eligibility is. Yes, Andrew Cook is a senior. He's a California native transfer. He's kind of he's a 6'4" guard. He's not like a big athletic. He's not the guy that you look at and you're like, oh dang, that guy's pretty good. He's not a first off the bus guy, but man, he just scores. I don't know. Even when he scores, he doesn't necessarily look like the most athletic dude of all time, but he just puts up points, which I kind of love. And he has been really, really good at the start of this year. Mason Williams, many of us are familiar with him. He is, a tall guard. He's a ball handler, but he's played a little bit of a 2-guard type role this year with Nick McLean being another ball handler that they use a lot. Mason Williams he's a little bit inconsistent, but generally his game is a lot of shooting. He's a good shooter. That's mostly what he does. He plays a little bit of defense. He had 4 steals in the Colorado games, 2 steals in the Missouri game, but he also had 5 turnovers in the Colorado game, 2 turnovers in the Missouri game. He's a little bit of an up and down player. He had 4 points in the Colorado game, but then in the Seattle U game, he had 18. In the Missouri game, he had 20 points. So he's a good scorer. He's a good threat from the outside. He's a guy that I feel like if he played more last year and was able to shoot more last year, that he could have made a pretty big impact on that 2023 Eastern team, or what it'd be 23-24 team. Now it's 24-25 team. He has a pretty big role. He's more of a bench guy. Now he's a sophomore. He's a big role, and you'll see him a lot. Nick McLean, he had a big game in the season opener. He had like 25 points in the season opener versus Colorado. He's more of an athletic driving type guy. He won the dunk contest at the Eagle Mad Nest. More of your athlete, ball handler, kind of Russell Westbrook isn't necessarily like a good comparison, but like in terms of play style, he's more like Russell Westbrook than Steph Curry, if that makes sense to kind of casual Big Sky or casual basketball fans. He had 16 points in the season opener at Colorado. He had 5 rebounds in that game, 4 assists. He had 3 steals in that game, 3 steals in the Seattle U game, 5 points in that game, 10 points versus Missouri. He had 2 assists, 6 rebounds. He's an athletic ball player. He had a lot of turnovers in the Missouri game. He's a good player though. He's athletic. He's a guy that we'll see on the court a lot because he can handle the ball pretty well. He turns the ball over a little bit. Turnovers has been kind of a theme early so far this year, but I'm not gonna get too much into it. Sebastian Hartman, we all remember him from last year. Really good defender, German kid. He's a sophomore this year. He's been playing. He's a starter now, and he has just been he's Johnny on the spot most of the time. A very solid player. I love Sebastian Hartman. He's 6'6" guard technically. He's been solid, 16 points in the Seattle U game, but other than that, normally he's not much of a scorer. He's more of a rebounder, a passer, and more of a defensive first guy. In the Seattle U game, man, he had a great game passing the ball. He had 6 assists in that game, but usually he's a consistent, great defensive player. Then Emmett Markart is your last starter. He's the big man on the team, and when I say he's the big man, I mean there's two guys over 6'9" that get regular playing time on this team, and it's kind of crazy because you typically last year 6'9" was like our shooting guard for Eastern Washington, and this year that's our center, that's our big guy, and this is Emmett Markart is a redshirt freshman. He's 6'9", 230. He's a stretch. I'd call him a stretch four, probably. He shoots the ball a decent amount. He likes to shoot the three. He actually was a member of the 3-point contest during the Eagle Madness, which you typically don't see from like a center type of guy. He's averaging like 8 points a game, something like that. He will play a lot. Typically, he plays just over half of the game. He's a good player. He defends decently well, but not a guy that blows you away athleticism wise. A lot of these guys are, Mason Williams, Nick McClain, Sebastian Hartman are all holdovers from Coach Riley's staff, but Emmett Markart is the other holdover from Coach Riley's staff that has made a lot of impact in this game, as well as Visej Zanki, but the starter that has made some impact. He was here for a year before. He was only here for a year. He redshirted, and now he's a redshirt freshman. He's getting playing time. But what we're seeing is a lot of the Coach Riley recruits are making big impacts. Then you have Andrew Cook, a transfer that's making a pretty big impact as a starter. You have Visej Zanki coming off the bench. He is the same kind of guy that we saw a little bit last year, 6'8" forward. He's similar in kind of style to Cedric Coward, I would say. Long guy. He's a little bit streaky. Like he had 12 points in the Colorado game. He shoots a lot of threes. He's either kind of on or he's off, and he'll play tar defense. He'll rebound the ball relatively well, but he's not a star. He's not a Cedric Coward right now. He reminds me of a young Cedric Coward, and he's a sophomore, so it's kind of what you would expect. Other guys to get a decent amount of playing time. You got Tyler Powell. He's a transfer from Nevada. He's 6'5". He's number one. He's more of a defensive first guy, a rebounding guy. He's not like the most impressive dude when it comes like offensively. He only gets about 17 minutes a game. But one thing that's fun about this team is like a lot of guys will get minutes. It's just not a ton of minutes. So like we have Sam Stockton, son of John Stockton, Gonzaga, and he played for the Jazz, I think, legend. He plays a little bit, not a ton, but he gets a little bit of playing time per game, 3 or 4 minutes usually. Doesn't do a ton. You got a couple guys whose names I cannot pronounce. You got Angelo Winkle, a guy that he's again like an athletic forward, kind of a long rangy athletic forward. It's hard to kind of describe some of these guys. We haven't seen a ton of games, but your main contributors are going to be those top 6 guys: Andrew Cook, Mason Williams, Nick McClain, Sebastian Hartman, Visej Zanki, Emmett Markart. You got Tyler Powell in there a little bit. Jackson Seal, another holdover from the David Riley staff. There's a lot more David Riley holdovers than you realize, but he's a guy, he's averaging about 7 minutes a game right now. Again, kind of a stretch 4. Like he's 6'10", but he's not like a beefy 6'10". He's more of a long, lanky 6'10". He seems a little bit more comfortable on the wing than he does down below, but hey, that might change as the year goes on. Other than that's most of the contributors as of right now. You got Elijah Thomas is another guy that plays a little bit. He's a 6'6" guard from Arizona. He's played 5 to 10 minutes a game. He doesn't necessarily contribute a lot offensively. Plays some solid defense. This team is a lot of like right around average players, in my opinion, to like good players that are all kind of, they play good ball together. They play hard, but they're not going to blow you away in terms of talent necessarily. That's kind of how I see it right now, but they all play hard. And, I think they're the kind of team that they remind me a little bit of like NAU in past years, where I don't really have a great comparison, but they remind me a little bit of NAU last year. As in, like, I feel like they're going to be a team that can beat anyone any day. They can lose to anyone any day. They play hard, so they're going to beat teams that they probably shouldn't beat talent-wise, and they're Maybe they're going to get out talented by a couple teams, but if I had to predict where they're going to end the season right now, I think they're going to end right around the 4, 5, 6 range, right in the middle of the pack. That's how I see it right now. But we have not seen them play a Big Sky team. But to me, like they just don't have the big men that they've had in the past, and I wonder how that's going to affect them. But yeah, that's the same story for a lot of Big Sky teams. So it should be an interesting season. It should be a fun season. We're not gonna like hit on them an insane amount until conference play starts. I might give like a little bit of a weekly shout out, but I'm more of a conference guy, anyways. I feel like that's more like out of conference games are fun. You want to root for your team, but there's not a ton of like storylines really that come out of that. In conferences where things get a little bit more exciting. I think about winning a conference championship, winning the conference tournament, going to the big dance. That's what's more exciting to me as a Big Sky basketball fan, and I'm sure that's kind of how a lot of people feel as well. But that's all we got for the men's team right now. Shout out to Andrew Cook. Shout out to Dan Munson getting his first win Sunday. I believe that's November 17th. There's a back-to-back men or women's basketball game and men's basketball game back-to-back. Go. Your first drink is on Coach Munson. Everyone that goes is going to get a coupon to go get a drink. It could be an adult beverage. It could be a soda, water, whatever. The first drink is on Coach Munson. So we're on the program, I guess. It's to celebrate Coach Munson's first win as the Eagle men's basketball coach, which is fun. That's just fun. Get out there, support both the men's and women's team. And speaking of women's, we're going to kind of talk about them a little bit, talk about what they've done so far a little bit as well. I'm not going to be as detailed about the women's team this year as I was last year. I'm just short on time, dude. I'm busy now, which kind of sucks. But let's talk about the women's team just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and close it out. And we'll have some special guests later in the week to talk about Eagle football as well. Here is Future Patty talking about Eagle women's basketball. All right, Eagle women's basketball, a little bit shorter. They've only played one competitive game against a D1 team. Their record is 1-1 right now. But the more interesting thing is they've lost basically. They lost a lot of minutes from last year. Most of their minutes from last year, aside from Bella Hayes got some minutes and Alexis Pettis got some minutes last year. Maybe a few minutes from Al Gallatin. Other than that, this whole team is new, and right now they look pretty dang good, guys. They brought in a couple transfers. They brought in some freshmen that are making some immediate impacts. And I guess Ellie Bonnet was another player that played a decent amount last year that has stepped up into a starting role. But this Eagle women's team is deep, and they play a ton. They play a ton of players. They play something like 10 players on a pretty consistent basis. They all get 15 minutes a game-ish. And other than that, it's a deep team. They're a team that, again, I feel like they're similar to the men's team. I think they're going to be, I think if I had to predict, I think they'd be better than the men's team this year in terms of the Big Sky standings. But they're not the most talented team in the Big Sky. They're not the obvious best team in the Big Sky. Last year, they just beat teams with defense, and they were just the best team. This year, that's not necessarily the case, in my opinion. I think they're going to be a scrappy, competitive team that plays everyone close. And I think they have a chance to finish around that 4-3-4 mark in the Big Sky. That'd be where I'd put them right now. Obviously, I want to be surprised. They took a pretty good team in Washington State to overtime and lost right at the end, which was a painful loss. But exciting. I mean, there's no moral victories, but that's a moral victory for sure. Looking forward, they play University of Washington on Thursday on the road. Tune into that game. But who are the main contributors? Okay, we'll hit on the schedule really quick. Washington State, they lost to Washington State in overtime. They lost 83-82. Eastern had a 2-point lead with about 4 seconds remaining in overtime. Or it was more like 9 seconds remaining in overtime. Washington State hit a 3-pointer to give themselves a 1-point lead with 4 seconds left in overtime. Eastern had to hit a buzzer beater to force overtime. Eastern kind of dominated that game late in the game. There's some turnover issues, let Washington State back into it. Then Washington State came back, beat them in overtime. Painful loss, but a team like Washington State, they're pretty good. So, The one thing that to me seems more evident is this Eagle team's a lot more offensive than they were last year. Last year they were a lot of defense. You got Jamie Loetta, now a member of the coaching staff, was put kind of the player. She won defensive player of the year and player of the year. She wasn't a big scorer. The whole team really was more of a defensive focused team, aside from, I guess, you had uh, Leah Alexander was more of a scorer. Other than that, like, they didn't have a ton of scoring. They played a lot of tough defense. They rebounded relatively well. This year, it seems like they score a lot more. It starts with Peyton Howard. Peyton Howard is a transfer from, I believe she's a transfer from Seattle U. She was recruited by Coach Gleason back at Seattle U, where she previously was. Peyton Howard came for her final year playing. She played in a similar offense, and so now she comes in starting as a grad student. She's starting at point guard, playing really well. She's averaging right around 13 points a game. You have Ella Gallatin, who was a bench player that didn't really play a ton last year. She's averaging 14 and a half points per game right now. She had a big game versus Walla Walla. JC Eggers is a freshman that has come in and made an immediate impact. She's starting at forward this year, I believe, or at least she's playing most of the games at forward. She's playing over half the game. She's a freshman from Woodinville, Washington. She's averaging, let's see. Oh, shoot. I went to the wrong thing. She's averaging 10 points a game right now. She's been really good rebounder, averaging 7.5 rebounds a game. Really impressed with a freshman to come in and make an immediate impact right now like that. Ellie Bonnet, we remember Ellie Bonnet from last year, a good shooting guard, a relatively good shooting guard, plays some tough defense, passes the ball well. She's back. Courtney Grossman is a freshman that she's a freshman from Montana. I believe she's from Billings, Montana. She's a kind of she's a 6 foot small forward is what she's listed as. She didn't play in the Wazoo game, but she played in the Walla Walla game for a couple of minutes. We probably won't see her a ton in Big Sky play. I have a feeling that we might see her a little bit in Big Sky play, considering she burned the red shirt. She burned the red shirt already versus Walla Walla. You got to think that she's probably expected to make some contributions throughout the year. She is a hell of a shooter. I believe she went to the championship round of the 3-point competition, and she might have actually won the 3-point competition at the Eagle Mad Nest. Good shooter, good size. She's probably gonna make an impact at some point in the year. Right now, she's still a freshman, true freshman. So, but again, the freshmen this year have been really impressive. Emily McElmurray, I believe is how it's pronounced, another freshman that's made a little bit of an impact in the Walla Walla game. Probably, again, similar story to Grossman. Grossman. She's, talented freshman. We saw her in the Walla Walla game. Burning the red shirt in the Walla Walla game probably means that we'll see her at some point in the season, but she hasn't played a ton, at least versus Wazoo. She didn't play a ton. We have Bella Hayes back. We remember Bella Hayes, really tall, plays down under the glass, good rebounder, also pretty good passer for being down low like that. You have Alexis Pettis is back, guard, ball handler. She's the most experienced player probably on the team coming back, or at least in terms of experience at Eastern. She's been here for years. Ellie Bonnet has been here for a couple years too. And some of the other players have been here for a while, but Alexis Pettis has the most playing time at least, and in an Eagle uniform. You have Bree Schuler. She's a big, I believe she's, she's a guard. She's a guard. Never mind. She's 5'10" guard. She's a tall guard, more of a kind of wing player from New Zealand. She's been a good scorer for the team, as well as Paris Kirk, another big rebounder, big 6'2" from Kelowna, British Columbia, same town as Nolan Holm on the football team. She's a good rebounder, she hasn't been as dynamic as a scorer, really. She's only averaging like 3.5 points per game. You also have Rachel Harvey, another transfer. She's from somewhere in California. I can't remember the school, but grad student playing her final year. Her and Peyton Howard have been the main point guards, and you have Ella Gallatin on the wing, as well as Ellie Bonai. And then your bigs are JC Eggers, Bella Hayes, another kind of point guard has been Alexis Pettis. Paris Kirk is also another one of the bigs. They play a lot of people on this team, and it's fun to watch, man. So many players get playing time, and they play good basketball, and they score a lot of points. They rebound the hell out of the ball. They've been a really good offensive rebounding team so far this year, which has been pretty dang impressive. for they have a lot of size among at least among the freshmen. J.C. Eggers leads the team in rebounds. Or excuse me, no, Paris Kirk actually leads the team in rebounds, averaging 9 rebounds a game, 7.5 for Eggers, 6 for Corey Wilcox. She'll only play another big, but she's only played in the Walla Walla game. But it's kind of a quick overview of the women's team. I'm not going to be quite as in depth, but hey, the women's team was fun too. Definitely recommend watching them play because they're fun. They took Washington State to the brink. Gotta hope that they bring it to Washington. I think they can beat Washington. Why not? And then they have Portland at home November 17th. That's Sunday at 2 p.m. I hope to see people there. That should be a fun game. I'm planning on being there for the back-to-back. Women play Portland University. The men play, I think they play Cal Poly. Yeah, they play Cal Poly back-to-back. Should be fun. I don't have a ton more to add on the women's team. They should be a good team. They should be probably up there with, one of the better teams in Big Sky. They're not on the same level as any of you this year. They're not on the same level as the team last year. A little bit of a reloading year for Eastern Washington, but they've got a lot of people that have been here for years. They've brought in some transfers and some freshmen to complement the people that have been here for years and that have just kind of sat on the bench. And so now it's kind of that time of those younger players and players that haven't had the opportunity to come and make their impact, and they've been doing that. So excited to watch both basketball teams as the year progresses because they both seem to be fun teams to root for. You never know who's going to win the game. You don't have games like you do when you play Walla Walla, who they beat by 50, but when you're playing other Big Sky opponents, you have no idea what's going to happen because both teams are there's not going to be big blowout games. You're not so bad that you're worried about getting blown out by everyone, which as an Idaho guy, I saw that last year a couple times. So they're going to be a fun team to come out and support. Everyone get out and support those basketball teams. But yeah, man, that's about all we got for Eagles Power Hour right now. We should be back Thursday morning with an episode of Eagles Power, maybe Wednesday night, most for sure by Thursday morning with an Idaho State preview. Should be a fun game. It's going to be a tough matchup. Idaho State throws the ball around the yard. Eastern has given up some big plays it's a little bit of a scary matchup, but it should be fun. Eastern's strength offensively is kind of their weakness. Eastern's weakness has been their weakness. So it should be Eastern's weakness on defense has been their strength. Should be an interesting matchup, but we'll save that. Hopefully we have a special guest. We might from the Jungle Inn podcast. We'll see. They also have lives this year. A lot of the Big Sky podcast student people like me, McLean Westbrook, and some of the Weber State Weekly guys. We all got busy all at the same time. So a little bit down on the Big Sky podcast this year, but yeah, man, that's all we got today for Eagles Power Hour. Thank you guys for listening. Get to Roos on Saturday. Get to Reese this week for both women's basketball, men's basketball, volleyball. They have the home match Friday versus Idaho. Should be a fun match. Hopefully the Eagles can win that one. But I think that's all we got, guys. Thanks everyone for listening. Go check out Walk On Apparel. Thanks again, guys, for sponsoring us, and go Eagles.